battling bullies. I want to put out a message to anyone who's experiencing online bullying or otherwise. You are not alone. You will get through this, and more than that, you will manifest through this. One of the worst times of my life was as a teenager. My mother had cancer, my parents were divorcing. Somehow, this was a signal to the hyenas, and they moved in savagely. I underwent the nightmare of boarding school while experiencing full-time bullying. No escape. It was like a hell on earth, and there's no glossing over it. And yet, I learned two of the most important lessons of my life in this time. The first is the tragedy of the bully. I realized subliminally that I was being attacked because I possessed something they were afraid of. What, you may ask, is that? Authenticity of self. Understand this, a bully does not bully from a position of power. He bullies from a state of fear. Once I realized this, I understood that what's inside a human being cannot be destroyed through the cruelty of cowards. The paradox is that I discovered this sense of internal power only through the abuse of bullies. Years later, I no longer hold contempt for my abusers, pity perhaps, but mainly though, I'm grateful for the revelations that I learned through it. Once you realize there's something in you beyond that which can be broken, you realize the tragic patheticness of the bully. With it comes the knowledge that until you take a stand, you will be forever picked on. And when you do, you learn how weak the bully is. The bully has no sense of self, and once you confront him with conviction, they disintegrate before you. There is no greater moment of bravery in your life than when you stand up to a pack of beasts, and nothing which teaches you more. What they perceived as weakness proves mirage. Why? Because to know yourself is to have access to the underworld. Driven into Hades, I found myself new formed. Why? Because knowledge of self is not just about knowing light, but about introjecting darkness. So why does the bully crumble? Because they awaken someone who has legitimate knowledge of the monster inside them. I knew none of my attackers had known pain like the terminal illness of a mother or the ravages of a family splintered through divorce. They mistook niceness for weakness. But the irony was that it was their malevolence which activated the power inherent in the awful experience I was having. And make no mistake, we are never whole until we understand the nature of suffering in all its forms. I realized that I could exist in the darkness, and I realized that I would never lose sight of the light, even in its absence. Ultimately, there is no idea more radical than the will to love. And one of the hardships of our path is that we must have our love tested. Love is perhaps only love once it has known destruction. Till that point, it exists as a butterfly in spring, forgetting in the flush life's temporariness. Yet when you find your deepest love in the darkest places, or more so, that the darkest places are composed of it, it forms you into a newfangled being. And so to your bully, be bold. It is in your knowledge of self that they find their nemesis. In your divination, they're breaking. At the last, it becomes your job to fix the things that break themselves upon you.